Hello, everyone. I'm Deb, and I'm here with Juno Award winning artist and motivational speaker Brenda MacIntyre, medicine song woman. Welcome, Brenda.
Bojo mishkikinagamon in equinedish cause go kokoni dodem, Calgreen in Dinjaba, Deshkan Zibu Mcwanada, Anishinaabe Irish, meanwhile Scottish, and so just saying greetings in the Ojibwe language. That my spirit name's Medicine Songwoman. I'm Owl Clan, and I am a 60 scoop survivor, so I don't know my whole story yet, but far as I know, I am Anishinaabe so far, and yeah, and I'm grateful to be living in London, Ontario, otherwise known as Deshkanzibi, um, land of the Haudenosaunee, Lenape, and Wandering peoples and Anishinaabe peoples. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Like I said, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today and to interview you for the Ontario Presents Indigenous Artist Spotlight. So I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, how long have you been singing?
All my life. All my life, but at 11, I knew I needed to be a singer. I knew that was my path. And I guess it was at the age of 19 that actually probably just before that, around the age of 18, when I got on stage and did that for the first time. Um, yeah. So a long time.
I'm asking because I listen to your music and it's absolutely beautiful. I'm a fan now. I didn't know before. But I have an aunt who sounds just like you. Your tone is very rich and it's beautiful. I love the vibrato. So I'm wondering, there's a global news journalist that described your music as a fusion of reggae and hip hop and a couple other genres, and I'm wondering how you describe your music.
I mean, it's sort of, there's two sides to it because the industry sees me as Indigenous reggae with a little other influences in there. I started off as a rap artist way back in the 80s in Miami. But yeah, and there is rap in a little bit of the last album I put out. I included all of me, all of except for maybe the house and stuff that I used to do back in the 90s, but all of me that really, like, as an artist, and that includes all those things. It includes reggae, a little bit of kind of R&B, soul. Some people say jazz. For me, it's Indigenous reggae, and it's hand drumming with the shakers, with that rich drum and bass and the rhythms, like just beautiful, but always conscious music. And that's what it's evolved into over the years. It used to be just, fun party music or whatever, but it's now really more about healing. And then the other side of things is I channel medicine songs. And so, like, every Monday at 4 p.m., is it Monday? Every Monday at 4 p.m., we have a medicine song healing moment that goes out on my socials. Because of that, like, it's my way of offering healing energy. That's how I do it, is through music. And so in those songs, I ask, and it's almost like a prayer, and then the song appears, and then I listen and I sing it.
That's beautiful. What drew you to those sort of kind of African diaspora genres? Is it like, was it musical or did you find healing when you listened to that?
A couple of reasons. I mean, being 60 Scoop Survivor, I had no sense of belonging at all. So I was trying to fit in, trying to find my way. And when I moved to Toronto after my parents died, I found all of the person I moved to Toronto with was hanging out with Jamaican folk. And that's basically was her friend base, was Jamaican folk. So we were hanging out all the time. And I'm serious when I say growing up, I never even knew what reggae was. All we had was two radio stations, and I didn't really like pop music because I don't know. lacks substance to me. We had some good rock and roll growing up, but that's not really my jam.
Mm,
And so when I discovered reggae, I was in love instantly, mostly because of the drum and bass and the positive messages that I was hearing. Not so much the dance hall that is what they would call slackness, like the dance hall with like when it's got conscious positive messages, I'm in. And so that's what I was drawn to. And also my son, who is no longer with us, his father is Jamaican.
oh,
So yeah, I
wow.
have a kind of well-rounded family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry to hear about your son. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. I'm also curious about, you said you were a 60 scoop survivor. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you tell
Hmm.
me about that just for me and for others who may not know what that is or what that means?
Yeah, it's a bit weird for me too, but it's basically Indigenous people were adopted out en masse in the 60s, to the 80s, really. And even now, like I don't know, they talk about the millennial scoop, and I don't know a lot about that. But for me, I was adopted at birth. For most folks, it's because they were taken away from their Indigenous parents. In my case, my biological mother is white, but I'm Indigenous. So she lied on the papers and she did what she did and had me adopted out immediately. And and that's what that is. And so I lost all connections to being Indigenous. I did not know I was Indigenous till my 30s. I still didn't really. I'm still on that journey. Like I don't have a lot to go on, but I have more than I did before, and that feels pretty good. But yeah, it's contentious. It's very difficult in the community because there's a lot of people out there that I don't know why, but people I guess pretend to be Indigenous that aren't, and so it's quite the journey to find my way with how to express even my indigeneity when there's a lot of, unfortunately, even lateral violence in our community about it, as well as racism from outside. So
Right.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing honestly. I'm wondering if you wanted to follow up on your son who's no longer with us, unfortunately. I'm sorry to hear about that. But how does that experience of not knowing your identity and the things that you've been through in your life also tie into your music and when you do public speaking?
Yeah. So with my son Quinn was he had a hard life. He had ADHD and and he just had a hard time in school. He hated school and fell into the wrong crowd early. Was bullied a lot as a child and very sensitive. And then when he grew up, then he was still rallying around kind of the wrong kinds of people. So I was trying to do my best to help him. I was a single mom. His dad was into drugs and stuff, and I couldn't stay with him because of that. And yeah, and I feel like I'm getting off track, but my son, um, and that happens because his birthday just passed and anniversary time and things like that. So
I'm sorry.
it's and the murder trial really only happened in 2019, 2018 to 2019, and he was murdered in 2016. He along with a friend, there were 5 people shot in total, and it was just his friend asked for directions and asked the wrong person. That's what happened. So yeah, I he leaves behind his little girl and me and his sister and his whole family. But one thing is that he was also into rap and trap music, and he was a beat maker, a producer, and an artist too. He was doing a lot of music, and so like my memories of him are him sitting there like this at the keyboard, day in and day out, with the headphones on. and so he was always busy with that or his child and his girlfriend. And so for me, when I go through difficult things like that, I mean, you know, I don't know, like I lost my parents when I was young and I didn't have any avenue for grief, no support, nothing. But for me, what I've learned along the way is to have that support and find and while I'm having that support, and what I've noticed, this is a lot of the times with what happens with people whose children are murdered, um, is that we'll do something to make meaning out of it and to help others. And because that's who I am already, because I'm a healer, I'm a facilitator, you know, my music is not for entertainment. It's you know, sure it's entertaining, but it's healing. And so what I did was a few things. I mean, I sang my victim impact statement. The only one that's ever done that. I don't know if it's in Canada or just in Ontario, but nobody ever thought to do that. And I channeled a healing song in court on that day, as well as saying some words. And the other things, you know, I've created press conferences and did healing songs and ceremony in front of the camera. Like I've done things to try and help. And I'm trying to get back to this is what happens though too. I have CPTSD now as well. So my memory is shot, and so I'll trail off, and I'm a storyteller, so that is part of it. But no, my son, of course, I miss him every day, but his music, I'm back on track now. So his music was inspiring to me. Like I mean, he was really like, his music was pretty rough street kind of rap. So not like gangster rap, kind of like, that's not me. Right. But he was his own person. And so, you know, that was what he did. But his beats were amazing. So I was listening to them and I was hoping to use some of that music actually on my album, because what I did during the murder trial to get me through it was make an album to help other people through grief, right? Because I knew that while I'm going through it is the best time to do it, because that's where all the feelings are going to go into the music, all of that medicine is going to go in, and then people can have that music to help them through their own grief journey. So that was the whole plan, and what I did to keep me buoyant, to keep me lifted up. And so I couldn't use his music due to copyright issues, because we don't know who he sold what to.
Right.
Not much of a paper trail kind of guy. So so I wasn't able to use his music. However, there are a couple of songs that are inspired by his music that are on there. And so I know that's also why that sort of the rap artist in me came back out after the 1980s, because I haven't like rapped in forever. But I had to. It was part of, especially the song Grieve that's on the album, because I'm talking about the whole situation, and it's really dedicated to gun violence, lost survivors and homicide lost survivors. Yeah.
That's it's such an amazing story, and I'm a little emotional as well, but I'm just so grateful that you're able to share. Um,
Thank you.
my other question is about motivational speaking and how you've helped, or rather, what themes, what things are really on your heart when you share with people.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's shifted over the years. Like for the past, before my son passed, I was helping women find their voice for over 20 years. And so that was my thing. That was my jam, like doing hand drumming workshops, which were really not just hand drumming workshops. They were more like I called them "Sing Yourself Alive," and I still do those where for organizations and stuff, where we're using singing Indigenous music to, and it's my original songs that we usually are singing, where we're opening up the throat. And what I've actually come to realize since I started to do this new work that I've branched into, which is really around grief, right? Which makes sense because I'm walking my talk, and am a person that, and I know in our community too, like if you want to get help, you want to get help not from someone who read books and got a certificate, but
Yes.
maybe they have that, maybe they don't, but you want to know they've gone through it.
Yeah.
You want to know they know from the bottom of their soul what it feels like. And so for me, that's why I'm doing more. My elder told me, "You're going to be doing grief work." I'm like, "No, I'm not." It's not what I'm doing. I don't see myself doing that. Yes, I'm doing that,
Yes.
but I'm doing it in my way, right? Like it's based on that album. So I created a course in 2020 for women called "Picking Up the Pieces" based on the album, and it's a 13 moon program for women where I get to spend time in circle virtually with women all over every full and new moon, right? And we're working with the music, and I'm also channeling song. So I'm in totally in my element doing that, and then I'm helping myself while I'm helping others, right? Like that's the ultimate for me. Yeah.
That's absolutely inspirational. Just before we end, I just want to give you the opportunity to let us know about anything that you might have coming up in maybe 2022 or the end of this year.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like so for the keynotes, those I don't have any planned yet, and people can reach me from my website, medicinesongwoman.com, and book me from there or the International Indigenous Speakers Bureau. And in terms of what's coming up, like we are always doing a monthly or moonly, I guess, full moon healing concert. So I have my medicine song healing concert, and that's regular. That's just going to be ongoing. And I know I have some other things coming up, but they're not 2022. So, like just things come up, and because I'm always doing gigs and helping community that way as well. So I do have something coming up, but I don't have details on that yet. And yeah, and that's sort of that's the way it is. And there's ongoing events, and people can check my events update page on my website.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brenda. It's amazing to chat with you. You need no introduction. You don't need anything. You're just an amazing person. And even after chatting with you today, it's definitely going to be memorable for me. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you, Miigwech.